Donald Trump and Republicans are salivating at the idea that they can brand the Democratic Party as the party of Zohran Mamdani. He's the socialist anti-Semite Democrats nominated for mayor of New York. Today, Mamdani doubled down on fighting immigration enforcement. Take a listen.
And those same blocks I used to love, the ones between Federal Plaza and the clerk's office, those are the same blocks now today where so many New Yorkers say goodbye to their loved ones and they don't know for how long. We are going to fight for every single one of those New Yorkers.
So Trump and this guy are already in a war, and it is something that Donald Trump is absolutely loving. He has even threatened to arrest Mamdani if he gets in the way of ICE agents. Aaron Parnas, journalist, attorney, and social media star, more than 4 million TikTok followers, joins us now. Have you ever seen anything as you've covered these trends in Democratic politics, like the energy behind Zohran Mamdani?
I think the closest thing to what we're seeing with Mamdani now is what we saw with AOC back when she was first elected. I think it's that same energy that we're seeing now over an up-and-coming kind of new Democratic rising star in a way. And it's funny, both are actually in New York. So I think that's the closest equivalent to what we're seeing today.
So AOC came up because of Twitter. Mamdani, because of various other forms of social media. He was excellent on TikTok, excellent on Instagram. I think you made a great point that this is New York. Is there any reason to think that this energy and this viewpoint is anything beyond electability in New York and then progressives and Democratic socialists on social media in limited numbers throughout the country are interested? Is there any reason to think it's bigger than that?
I don't know, but I will say this. What gets you elected in New York City isn't going to get you elected in rural Wisconsin or in Michigan or even in parts of Florida or California. I mean, I think every city, every location is a little different. So I don't actually think this trend is necessarily going to equate to all over the country. I mean, but we'll have to see, depending on the rise in primaries that we're going to see on congressional races, with more kind of progressive challengers to moderate incumbents. And we're going to have to see what voters want. But ultimately, I don't know that this is going to necessarily translate outside of the city. If that were the case, AOC's vision would have translated to all over the country, and that hasn't necessarily happened.
That's a fair point, although she's getting big crowds when she travels the country. Aaron, help us understand that are Democrats or progressives blind when you interact on social media with this base to the idea that nothing fires up Republicans and even the moderate center to move towards Donald Trump like what we're seeing right now in New York, that these kinds of fights over ICE, over boys and girls sports are the best thing that can happen to Republicans?
I mean, I will say one thing from the top. I think social media really isn't real life. And I think a lot of folks need to recognize that a majority of Americans aren't necessarily on social media engaging in these back and forths or even paying attention to what's happening on Twitter these days. I do think, though, that there are some issues that are really breaking through. I think the immigration issue is breaking through. I have Republicans, independents, and Democrats in my comments regularly telling me that this is impacting their communities. And so I think it's issue specific. I don't know necessarily that it's good for Democrats or bad for Democrats for getting into these fights, but ultimately what the Democratic Party wants, at least Democratic voters want, is to see fighting back. So I think that's a positive in that regard, at least.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Aaron, take us through what it is that I think you're right to say social media is not real life. But I think it's important to note what voice you're speaking to and about. Rolling Stone headline, he's not the left's Joe Rogan, referring to the wildly popular conservative podcaster, or now conservative podcaster Joe Rogan, who endorsed Donald Trump, but he may be even better. What are you seeing that people are looking for on the left that you're providing?
I mean, what I'm providing is just facts, right? I'm just giving them the news. I'm not telling them what to think, how to think, or why to think something. I'm just telling them what is there, and then they can make their own assessments based off of it. It's funny, I wouldn't have chosen that headline personally because I'm not trying to be the left's Joe Rogan or Joe Rogan specifically. Joe Rogan is a former Fear Factor host turned political kind of endorsee in the 2024 election. He's not necessarily a political figure. And so I'm not trying to be that. I'm just trying to provide people who either don't watch the news or are tired with the news with just news.
Aaron, you're welcome back anytime. This is one of the best interviews we've had on the program in a very long time. Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.